Every instance of intoxicated calls bears repercussions, yet Belly's inebriated dial might boast the most favorable result. In the wake of all that unfolded the previous week, Season 2, Episode 7 of The Summer I Turned Pretty, Love Affair, promptly commences the process of rectification, both in the literal and metaphorical sense. Filled with fury, Laurel arrives following Belly's intoxicated voicemail. A series of misunderstandings culminates in a slap across Belly's cheek. At last, the mother and daughter sit down to converse about their sorrow in the wake of Susanna's passing. Laurel concedes that she endeavored to display strength for Belly and Stephen when she ought to have been candid about her sentiments. Ultimately, they both carve out a space to allow one another to experience their emotions to the fullest. Witnessing this growth is truly gratifying. This sentiment also applies to the residence, which has held paramount importance throughout this season. After inadvertently revealing that Susanna had contacted Julia regarding custody matters prior to her demise, Laurel decides to compensate for this by embarking on one last desperate endeavor to preserve the beach house, particularly for the children's sake. Julia and Laurel take a leisurely stroll down to the lakeside gazebo, ultimately establishing an environment wherein Julia can unburden herself concerning her resentment towards the house and her parents. She confesses to feeling abandoned and manipulated as a pawn in her parents' conflicts. Despite Susanna's sincere attempts to integrate her into the family fold, both Laurel and Julia concur that Susanna preferred to evade any intricate discussions. Julia's frustration holds a certain validity. Susanna chose to convey news of her illness and the house through a letter to her half-sister, rather than opting for a direct conversation. This distant mode of communication fueled Julia's ire, prompting her to refrain from responding. Overwhelmed by guilt, she found herself unable to board a plane to attend the funeral. Consequently, selling the house became her means of distancing herself from the entire distressing episode. However, the dialogue with Laurel exposes her to the prospect of carving out her own space within the beach house. Eventually, she consents to rescind the sale on the condition that Jeremiah and Conrad's father, Adam, purchases it from her. Upon his arrival at the beach house, Adam initially harbors reservations regarding the notion. Yet, given the prevailing theme of candor in this episode, he eventually yields and even tenders an apology for his shortcomings as both a father and a husband. He presents a proposition to the boys. He will acquire the beach house, contingent on selling their residence in Boston. The boys promptly concur, prompting Adam to swiftly depart once more, en route to Boston to initiate the sale proceedings. As the house returns under their ownership, the two brothers also succeed in reconciling their strained relationship. Conrad discloses his acceptance to Stanford and attempts the role of the elder brother by suggesting he should stay nearby to support the family. However, Jeremiah encourages him to embrace the opportunity, since it's his desired university. In an unexpected turn of events, the entire group comes together to pull an all-nighter, assisting Conrad in preparing for his upcoming final exam the following day. During that evening, he engages in another conversation with Belly, skirting around their emotions. She comes close to confessing her sentiments for someone, but Conrad drifts into slumber before she completes her sentence. Despite their ongoing discussions about embracing fresh opportunities and avoiding past mistakes, it's quite evident that Belly's affections are now directed towards Jeremiah. Yet it remains uncertain what might unfold if Conrad could summon the bravery to express his feelings directly to her. Belly coordinates the overnight study session, complete with McDonald's burgers, an energizing playlist, and an abundance of study resources. As morning arrives, Laurel grants her approval for a road trip up to Brown University with the brothers in order to complete what she started. The subsequent journey to the campus is notably uncomfortable, saturated with palpable sexual tension. After delivering Conrad for his final exam, Belly and Jeremiah make their way to Finch College, the institution he'll be attending come autumn, and coincidentally, the school Belly's counselor mentioned she has a chance of getting into. They playfully wander around the campus, their interactions carrying a flirtatious undertone. They visit the volleyball court, where Belly confesses that she envisions herself excelling. At that very moment, she resolves to plead for her position on the team when she returns home. Yet, it's not solely volleyball that occupies her thoughts. She sees a scenario where she and Jeremiah are both present, studying until the early hours on campus. Without explicitly stating it, she hints at a future she envisions with Jeremiah. However, She wastes no time in voicing her thoughts. As they return to Brown and await Conrad in the parking lot, Belly musters the courage to inquire whether he would ever grant her a second chance. Jeremiah's response reflects his apprehension about her potentially abandoning him once more. In earnest, Belly pledges that such a scenario won't repeat itself, underscoring their growth as individuals. They gradually draw nearer, their gaze locked and lips tantalizingly close. Swiftly, their collision becomes inevitable, and it would require a seismic event to separate them at that moment. Naturally, the interruption comes from Conrad, who clears his throat to signal his arrival. Until this juncture, the entire episode had evoked the sensation of a season finale, yet now, a new twist presents itself. In the forthcoming finale, we shall witness the aftermath of the kiss, and Conrad's response to his younger brother locking lips with the person he holds dear. The love triangle endures, and naturally, it's Conrad who breaks the silence with a throat clearing, marking his entrance. Until now, the entire episode had carried the weight of a season finale, but a new complication emerges. In the forthcoming true finale next week, we'll witness the aftermath of the kiss, and Conrad's response to his younger brother, sharing a passionate moment with the person he deeply cares for. The love triangle remains at the forefront. Forming new perspectives on this summer-infused love triangle becomes increasingly challenging. We all possess that friend who makes unwise choices, yet attempts to rationalize them through a convoluted emotional labyrinth within their mind. In The Summer I Turned Pretty, Belly assumes that role. She's embarked on a journey of correction or comprehension. However we choose to label it, the entanglement remains the same. Frankly, we've previously been derisive of Belly's intentions and deeds, but candidly, she's no different from any other teenage girl. It's Jeremiah's exceptional character that accentuates the irksomeness of others for us. Now, as we approach the penultimate episode of the second season, let's revisit the events through this recap to discern the unfolding of the narrative. Understandably, Laurel is consumed by anger upon receiving the call from her daughter, informing her that she's not at home, but has rather been staying at the beach house for the past few days, all the while deceiving her. As Belly rouses from a sleep marred by inebriation and bitterness, her mother is there, poised to express further displeasure. Belly informs her about the house being primed for sale, but Laurel is of the mind that she can't possibly intervene in the process, akin to how the youngsters have led themselves to believe. For Belly, the haze of her hungover state is yet to dissipate when she finds herself locked in conflict with her mother. Laurel's anger towards Belly and Stephen's lack of responsibility is entirely justified, yet Belly's ire is directed at her mother for erecting emotional barriers so formidable that communication had become impossible. As Belly had suspected, Laurel did indeed harbor resentment towards her for the commotion that unfolded at Susanna's funeral. Let us reiterate this fact. The blame couldn't be solely attributed to Belly. Conrad shared an equal responsibility. Even if Belly had misconstrued Conrad's intentions and hastened out of the room, it was Conrad who had insisted on addressing her in front of everyone. He could have effortlessly taken her aside or chosen to clarify matters at a more suitable time, but it's evident that he intercepted her and insisted on conversing then and there. Emotions have their limits, and Belly finds herself unfairly burdened for not embodying more saintly qualities. Remarkably, both Conrad and Jeremiah abstain from placing blame on her for that particular day, although Laurel does. We believe it's not so much anger as it is grief. When one fails to channel their sorrow through a constructive outlet, it's inevitable for it to manifest in unhealthy manners. When Belly raises this point to Laurel's attention, it serves as a catalyst for her to strike her daughter. Perhaps this very act prompts Laurel to finally recognize her own fallacies. Filled with anger and humiliation, Belly flees to the beach. While back within the house, Conrad comprehends that his conduct hasn't diverged from Laurel's. His steadfast adherence to the facade of strength has inadvertently distanced him from those who hold him dear. Belly and her mother reconcile as Laurel extends her apology, vowing to aid her daughter in the matter of utmost significance to her at that moment, the house. Upon Julia's return, she's taken aback by the state of disarray left behind by the previous night's party. However, her astonishment grows upon spotting Laurel present. The adults promptly withdraw to engage in their own conversation. Laurel once more articulates the house's significance to the children of Julia and entreats her to reconsider selling it. In this moment, Julia's evolution becomes evident, possibly influenced by therapy or self-reflection. She highlights to Laurel that she and Belly were always welcome there, but a space for Julia never existed in the house. There's no emotional or spiritual bond tethering Julia to the beach house. Nevertheless, she admits that she lacks the right to harbor bitterness. After all, Susanna wasn't bound to cater to Julia's emotional wounds, given that the letter deliberately distanced itself from the family dynamic. So that's all from today's video. If you enjoyed it, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell icon so you never miss our upcoming videos. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments section. Stay tuned, and we will catch you in the next video.